What really bothers me is how normalized it is. These were people. These were people with lives. And those lives were cut short, and people are barely paying attention to it. I will never understand it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first video of my new channel called Sincerely Devora. I am Deborah McDougall, also known as Devora, and I am a student at Columbia University studying astrophysics. I created this channel because I was very interested, well, not was, I am very interested in Afrocentric stories, and I wanted to share those stories and have difficult conversations about the problems facing our community. In our current age of anti-intellectualism, I feel like arguing and sharing claims as if they are facts has become the norm. And as someone who wants to work in academia, it doesn't work with me. No, it doesn't work with me at all. In this space, whatever I decide to talk about has been heavily researched to ensure that it is as informational as possible and is rooted more in facts and historical events than just my personal biases and perspectives. Because if there's one thing that I've learned from watching social media like form throughout the years, is to not have my personal experience be my take, because my personal experience is not everyone else's personal experience. But what I will do is point out a pattern so that we can have a discussion. I create my videos by starting with a research paper. Well, first I find a topic that I find interesting, and then I create a research paper on it, and then I post said research paper on Medium. I'll put my link to it, or at least to the one specific to this video, in the description so you can see it for yourself. And then after doing like the whole research process and writing that paper, like collecting my evidence and my reasoning and analyzing said evidence, then I record a YouTube video basically discussing it. My YouTube videos will be a lot more opinionated than my research papers, obviously, because I'm talking about it, and it's kind of hard not to let what I feel and think show, especially when it's a very, I wouldn't say very cut and dry, but a very moral heavy issue. Always put my research papers in the description of my videos, and you can see the culmination of all the research papers that I will write over the course of having this channel on my website, deborahmcdougall.org, which I'll also put in the description for you to read. I think that is most of the homekeeping stuff, and I guess we can get started with the video. The topic that I chose for the first video on this channel made me very nervous because of how heavy it was, but because it was so heavy, it also meant that it was something that needed to be spoken about. And so, yeah, let's get started. The topic of today's video is the case of Adrianna Younge and the murder of African women in the Caribbean. I will read a synopsis of her case right now, and I will also put the details for you to read on the screen. 11-year-old Adrianna Younge was found dead on April 24, 2025, in a hotel pool in Tuskegee, Guyana, 20 hours after she went missing. Officials ruled it a drowning, citing no signs of trauma, assault, or struggle. The family rejected the autopsy and demanded an international investigation and the commission of inquiry. Protests erupted nationwide, fueled by distrust in Guyana's justice system. Some protests escalated, and police used tear gas and bullets, resulting in 2 deaths and over 100 arrests. The Doubledays Hotel and its owner's home were burned down by Tuskegee residents. Vigils has been held in the UK, Barbados, and New York, turning Adrianna's case into a global call for justice. Adrianna's case has also taken social media by storm, and a lot of creators that I am familiar with have made videos calling out for a proper investigation on her behalf. Let's take a look.
Situation just gets more and more heartbreaking. The autopsy for Adrianna Younge, the 11-year-old girl that was found deceased at the Doubleday Hotel in Guyana, was completed. Due to the corruption that's already been displayed, Adrianna Younge's family wanted the chief medical examiner from America to complete her autopsy, so Dr. Gary L. Collins from Delaware completed it. The results concluded that Adrianna Younge drowned. Now, my first initial thought is that they must have got paid off and that they're trying to say that she drowned in the swimming pool even though she was placed there. She didn't die there. But then my next thought is that that could just be the cause of death and not the manner of death. The manner of death is whether it was a homicide or if it was accidental. So then my next thought is they must have drowned her in that tub, that room that they were burning up when they discovered the body. So I'm like, there's still a possibility that it could be a homicide and Adrianna Younge's family is going to get justice. But then the Guyanese president comes on the news and says that there was no foul play, that it was accidental. How dare you say that this was an accident when she had cotton in her nose? How dare you say this was an accident when you see the injuries all over her body? How dare you say it was an accident when she was not in the pool when they did the initial search? The family of Adrianna Younge have said herself that Adrianna knew how to swim. Don't blame her death on her. The distrust that I would feel for the government is terrifying. I'm so sorry for the people of Guyana. This is scary. The lying and the corruption going on in this case is disgusting because this is about an 11-year-old child. I pray for justice for Adrianna Younge, and I pray for healing for Adrianna Younge's family and for the people of Guyana. This is so sad.
So boom, yeah, I just woke up not too long ago, whatever, and I opened TikTok and I'm starting to see a lot about this Adrianna Younge girl, who's from Guyana. She passed away in Guyana. It don't sit right with my soul. It really don't. And it's so sad because a lot of Caribbean islands, police or justice system, if you want to call government, whatever, is very corrupted. Is very, very, very corrupted, and they are part of many reasons why. They are a big part of many reasons why people go missing. What you call it, bodies pop up without organs. They are part of a lot of trafficking that goes on with either young kids, women, especially young kids, because that's what the money is. Sad to say, a lot of money comes from trafficking. And it's so sad to sit over and see that this girl, they said that how she was snatched up out of the pool, right? And then people started searching the pool area, all this, that, and third. They cannot find her. That out of nowhere, she popped up the next day floating in the pool. Body lifeless. And she had marks on her arms and her knees. And they trying to sit over and figure out where the hell those marks came from. And where did she come from? Because her body wasn't there when they were searching her. And out of nowhere, the next day she popped up there. That is so sad to hear. That is so sad to hear, and I hope they keep doing a bigger investigation. I hope something happens to where they do a bigger investigation. This little girl, Adrianna Younge, she sits over and gets the justice. Her family gets justice, some peace of mind to know what had happened to their little girl. No one should sit over here and lose a child, especially that way. So to hear that happen to her at such a young age at that, that's sad. Prayers to her family, condolences is sent, sorrows and all types of prayers. You feel me? I just hope they really sit over here and investigate this, because that little girl did not deserve to go in vain like that. She did not deserve to go in vain like that at all.
Adriana's case prompted me to look into how the deaths of African descended women are treated in the Caribbean, and my research helped me create the following thesis. Legal systems and media institutions across the Caribbean systematically fail to respond to the murders of women and girls of African descent. These failures are shaped by deep-rooted historical legacies and cultural norms that continue to influence how justice is delivered and whose lives are deemed worthy of due consideration. Adriana's case isn't isolated. Stories like this happen all the time across the Caribbean. Legal systems do not take the cases of African women seriously, and they rush to close cases instead of solving them. On top of that, most of these systems were created during the era of colonialism, which was never meant to serve us anyway. Even now, the media plays into stereotypes, making us seem angry and reckless and responsible for our own deaths instead of the people who murdered us. And when someone isn't seen as respectable, then the media tunes us out and the police moves on, which is not acceptable under any circumstances. What really bothers me is how normalized it is. These were people. Like, these were people with lives. And those lives were cut short, and people are barely paying attention to it. I will never understand it. And I also believe that the silence surrounding the deaths of women who look like me is strategic because it keeps people comfortable. As the saying goes, ignorance is bliss. It also makes me think about how countries, especially countries in the Caribbean, focus on their image since tourism is a very big cash flow for them. It's a very big form of income for that country. And I don't think people would be very willing to travel to those countries if they were truly honest about the abuse and violence that African descended women face in those countries. And not just African women either. Violence in those countries in general has always been an issue. And this problem is so deeply rooted because it is cultural, it is political, and it's systemic, all at the same time. Now, I'm not just pulling these claims out of the sky. Studies and research papers have been released discussing this topic as well. For example, a 2021 UN brief on intimate partner violence in 5 CARICOM nations, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago, revealed that women in Afro-Caribbean communities experience elevated levels of physical violence and encounter greater challenges when seeking help due to limited resources and social support. Also, in Kevin G. Kelly's paper, Violence Against Women in the Caribbean Narrative, he states the number of rapes and murders of women are so high that the government passed special legislation. Unfortunately, the legislation has been stifled, and those figures are severely underreported due to an inability to interconnect different agencies and disseminate information. Now that we have spoken about the issue, I think it's also important to propose a solution and talk about what needs to change. For starters, the media needs to stop telling half the story. They need to stop sugarcoating violence, and they need to stop blaming the victims for their own death, because that's counterintuitive. Makes no sense. Next, we need laws that actually protect African women, and those laws need to be enforced. If those laws are not enforced, they basically mean nothing. On top of that, respectability politics, it needs to go. It needs to go. Just because someone what really bothers appealing to look at is how normalized it is. These were to be fitting into your standard doesn't these were mean that their life matters less. And those lives and were cut short, the silence around gender and race-based violence needs to come to an end. This is something that we have to openly discuss. In families, in schools, in politics, with friends, it is too normalized and we are too quick to sweep it under the carpet, and we need to have a genuine conversation, or else the violence will just continue because we don't hold people accountable. Things like this cannot continue to be covered for the sake of national pride. I didn't want to start my channel with something so heavy, but it needed to be said. Adrianna Younge's story matters, and so do the stories of all the women and girls who won't make headlines. If no one talks about it and no one takes action, nothing will change. As I mentioned before, I wrote an entire research paper on this, and I included my sources so you can corroborate and read for yourself if you don't think that I'm trustworthy, and I will include all of that in the description. And if this made you uncomfortable, good, because that was the purpose of my entire platform, to have difficult conversations about Afrocentric stories, history, and problems. And I hope this encouraged you to think more about the violence against our mothers, sisters, daughters, nieces, and friends. Anyways, that concludes everything that I have to say about this topic. Thank you for holding space for this, and thank you for listening to me. Here is my Instagram, TikTok, and I don't remember what other social media I have, if I'm being completely honest, but I will conclude it all there. And again, here is my website where you can also access all of my papers, because there will be more. and read for yourself and inform yourself, because that's the end goal of everything I'm doing right now. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and if you believe that this was important, don't forget to like, and I will be back with more. Sincerely, Devora.